Most people don't learn about debt collection in a classroom. They learn about it through a phone call that won't stop, or a letter that feels threatening, or a lawsuit they never saw coming. Debt collection isn't a side effect of the credit system, it's the enforcement arm of it. It's where credit stops being theoretical and starts showing up in real life, at work, at home, in courtrooms, and bank accounts. And yet, for something that affects tens of millions of Americans, almost no one is ever taught how it actually works or what their options really are. Welcome back to Give Me Credit, the podcast where we explain credit, debt, and the systems around them the way they actually operate, not the way they're marketed. I'm J.S. Waldo, longtime mortgage underwriter, writer at jswaldo.substack.com. And with me, as always, is John Mackey, our credit genius, the guru of all credit. Also, you can find him on Substack. Today, I'm stepping into the interviewer role to talk with John about a new debt collection course he's built. Not to walk through a syllabus, but to answer a bigger question. Why do so many people lose in debt collection before they ever realize they're playing a game? John, let's start here. You ready?
Yep.
Okay. Why does debt collection deserve an entire course?
Well, it's a huge topic because debt collection is where misunderstanding becomes a consequence. People can misunderstand credit cards for years and survive. They can misunderstand credit scores and still function. But when debt collection shows up, misunderstanding turns into judgments, wage garnishments, frozen bank accounts, and long-term damage. This is the part of the system that assumes silence equals consent, and most people don't even know that assumption exists. What I want you to do is consider this. Debt collection lawsuits are rising, going up. State courts across the country are reporting a surge in debt collection lawsuits, reaching levels comparable to or exceeding pre-pandemic highs. This reflects more accounts being pursued through formal channels. Number two, consumer debt balances are climbing, and they're climbing fast. Total credit card debt, a major precursor to collections when payments are missed, just hit a record high, topping 1.233 trillion with a T in quarter three of 2025 and continue to grow, pointing to more stress that can lead to collections. Delinquency has been trending upward. Federal Reserve data indicates higher levels of serious delinquency. And by that, I'm talking about 90 days or greater due, past due. An early indicator that more accounts are headed towards third-party collection placement. And number four, certain state court systems are seeing sharper growth. For example, Alaska's state courts reported debt collection case volumes soaring alongside broad national trends in consumer debt. Consumer complaints about debt collectors have increased. The CFPB's data on complaint trends, historically one of the best near real-time indicators of consumer pain in the market, shows debt collection complaint volume increased in 2024 compared with the recent past, including a large rise in complaints about debt consumers did not recognize. FTC complaint data from the early 2025 suggests a dramatic jump in collection-related complaints. 112,000 in one quarter, more than double the year earlier level. It's significant because spikes in complaint filings usually coincide with rising contact volume and more aggressive collection activity. Here's my bottom line. Third-party debt collectors are coming. They're coming fast, they're coming hard, as a direct and indirect result of the disbanding of the CFPB, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau.
Mhm.
You must be able to protect yourself.
So, what do people usually think debt collection is before they ever experience it?
They just see them as aggressive phone calls. Now, in the course that I developed, we go over these. We actually listen on recordings of egregious debt collector calls that I have been a part of in the representation of my clients. What they don't realize is that debt collection is a legal process wrapped in behavioral pressure. Every letter, every call, every deadline is designed to provoke a reaction or exploit the lack of one. Most consumers aren't losing because the debt is airtight. No, they're losing because they don't know when timing matters, when to be silent, what silent costs, or what actually creates leverage. You must know what to say, what not to say, and when to say it.
Okay, so surprise question for you. For the people who are listening, what's the most dangerous thing the average consumer believes about debt collectors?
That the debt collectors automatically have proof. It's surprising how many do not. Most
Mhm.
people assume the paperwork exists, the math is right, and the ownership is clear, and nothing could be further from the truth. So they operate from fear instead of verification. In reality, much of this system runs on assumptions, summaries, and shortcuts, and it only works if the consumer never asks the wrong questions. Debt collectors purchase debt off of Excel spreadsheets, with most, if not all, supporting documentation missing.
So, excuse me, this course isn't really about fighting collectors. It's about understanding the system.
Yeah, I believe that to be true. Um, it isn't about being combative, calling them names, thinking that you're going to scare them away. It's all about being literate. Once you understand how debts move, how timelines work, how procedure beats emotion, the entire experience changes. Your fear drops, clarity rises. That's the real product here. Calm through understanding.
Okay, another surprise question then. What's something people do every day that can quietly make a collection case worse?
Talking without strategy. People overshare. I mean, you take a look at Facebook and what they put out there to share, or X, or any of these others, Instagram,
All the socials.
all the socials. They admit things they don't need to. They reset clocks without knowing that clocks exist. The system is very forgiving for collectors. That's the way it's written. But collectors make mistakes. But incredibly unforgiving for consumers doing the same thing. That imbalance is what this course corrects.
Okay, can you explain a little further?
Most people make the situation worse by talking without a plan. They
Mm.
get caught off guard by the first phone call. They overshare. They explain. They're embarrassed. They admit things they don't need to admit. What feels like being honest or cooperative often becomes evidence. People also reset timelines without knowing timelines exist by making a small payment, confirming a debt, or saying the wrong thing at the wrong time. The system gives collectors room to make mistakes. It gives consumers almost none. That is what this course fixes.
You've said before that debt collection isn't about truth, it's about procedure. That makes people uncomfortable. Why is that?
Well, I think people want fairness to be automatic. They assume that other people are going to be fair with them, and that's not the case. Court systems reward participation, not moral correctness. If you don't respond, you lose. If you respond incorrectly, you often still lose. This course teaches people how to engage without panic and without accidentally helping the other side.
So, who do you think this course is really for? Someone already in trouble or someone trying to avoid it?
Well, in reality, both, but ideally, it's the second group. I'm talking about people trying to avoid it. This is preventive education. It's much easier to protect yourself before a mistake than to undo one later.
Mhm.
Most people don't realize that the biggest damage in debt collection doesn't come with debt itself. It comes from the first few reactions. What you say, what you ignore, what you respond to too quickly. Once those early mistakes are made, your options narrow fast. But for people who are already in it, dealing with collections, lawsuits, or nonstop contact, this course gives them something that they usually don't have, a framework. Instead of reacting out of fear, they learn how to slow things down, understand where they actually stand, and make deliberate decisions instead of emotional ones. So whether you're trying to avoid the trap or already inside it, this course is about the same thing, turning your confusion, into clarity, and your panic, into control.
Okay, last surprise question. What's the one sentence you wish every consumer understood before their first collection call?
Silence and speed benefit the collector, not you. Once people grasp that, everything changes.
What do you want someone to walk away with after finishing this course?
Clarity. I want them to know exactly what the process is and how to respond to that process. It's not bravado. It's not false confidence. Not the kind of hype to tell people to fight back without knowing what they're doing.
Mhm.
I want them to understand how the system actually works, how debts move, how timelines create pressure, and how procedure shapes outcomes. When you understand that, the fear goes away. The noise fades. You stop guessing. Once you know the rules of the game, it becomes much easier to play. And this is a game.
Mhm.
Instead of reacting to every letter or call, you know what matters and what doesn't. You know when to act, when to wait, and when silence is the smarter move. That's the shift I want. From panic to perspective, from confusion to control. Not because the system became fair, it did not, but because it stopped being mysterious. And once it no longer is mysterious, it no longer controls you.
Yeah, that all makes sense. John, what's the one thing a person needs to say to the debt collector above anything else?
This is the one sentence everybody needs. And I quote, please send me everything in writing to the address you have on record. That's it. No confirmation, no updating telephone numbers, addresses, nothing. No corrections, no follow-ups. Send me everything in writing. It forces the process onto paper where the rights exist and timing matters because this is all about having a timeline to the
Mhm.
address you have on record. It avoids verifying or updating your address, which they might not even have. That could be used later. No verification of identity or debt. You are not confirming the debt is yours, the amount, your address, your intent to pay. Anything beyond that sentence risks becoming an admission, a timeline reset, or evidence you didn't mean to create. The rule to remember and is this. Your first goal is on a collection call is not to explain. It's to exit cleanly. Say the sentence, stop talking, hang up. That one move preserves leverage better than anything else a consumer can do in the first 30 seconds.
That's important. That's really important data right there. That's great advice, all of it. What I'd like to do, John,
Yeah.
let's walk through the course itself. Let's start with tell us a little bit about Module 1.
Well, the course is broken up into modules,
Mhm.
modules 1 through 9. And if you could understand that the modules are like chapters.
Okay.
And module 1 is basically a discussion on how debt enters collection.
Okay.
This module explains what actually happens the moment an account goes delinquent and how creditors decide whether to collect, assign, or sell the debt. Once people see the business logic behind collections, it stops feeling personal and it starts feeling procedural.
Okay. Module 2 focuses on the first letter people usually ignore, the Dunning letter. We've talked about this before. I'm glad we're getting into this. The Dunning letter, your
Yep,
first
yep,
real deadline.
yep. This module breaks down why the Dunning letter quietly controls the timeline of your rights. Silence here doesn't protect you. It hands the collector leverage they did not earn.
So the next one, validation letters, we've talked about, oh my gosh, we've literally used that word so many times in so many
Right.
of our podcasts. Validation letters get thrown around a lot online. Validation letters, module 3, what proof really means.
So this module exposes the gap between what consumers think validation is and what the law actually requires. Accepting summaries instead of proof is one of the biggest mistakes people make, and it follows them straight into court.
Okay, so the next module, module 4, cease and desist letters. I mean, that right there sounds pretty powerful. Cease and desist, powerful, misused, and often dangerous. Module 4.
Yeah, one of the easiest things that an individual can do is create the cease and desist letter. It should stop them in their tracks. And it explains what cease and desist letters, excuse me,
Mhm.
actually stop harassment when they quietly trigger lawsuits. Usually, or I'm sorry, used incorrectly, they don't create peace, they escalate enforcement.
Excellent. So then the next module 5, statute of limitations. It confuses almost everyone. So in module 5, statute of limitations, time is a weapon. Love the name.
Yeah, the module shows how collectors exploit confusion around timelines and how consumers actually, and accidentally reset the clock. Time can protect you, but only if you know how not to give it back.
Okay, so then let's talk lawsuits. The next step, module 6,
Yeah.
collection lawsuits, what really happens in court.
This module walks through how collection lawsuits are filed and why most are won by default, not evidence. Court isn't about truth, it's about the procedure, and silence is the fastest way to lose.
And once a lawsuit starts, people feel cornered. So that takes us to module 7, legal pause, discovery, and leverage.
Yeah, this module teaches how to slow cases down and force proof through proper procedure. Everything we teach is legal. Everything we teach is based on the FDCPA and the Fair Credit Reporting Act.
Yeah, which is important. You know, the goal isn't confrontation, it's leverage. You have so
Oh,
much to offer. So
right.
then you're going to go into Regulation F, which changed the landscape. So Module 8, Regulation F, the new rules collectors hate.
Yeah, this is relatively new law within the past 3 or 4 years. And I shouldn't say it's a law. It is an interpretation by the CFPB of the FDCPA. And it breaks down call limits, how often they can call, when they can call, and so forth. Digital contact rules, how they can talk to you via all the social medias,
Hmm.
and document requirements collectors violate every day. Once consumers know how to document violations, power shifts fast.
Okay, and then your final module, ownership. Module
Yeah.
9, ownership change. Who actually owns the debt?
This module exposes how debts are sold, assigned, and resold, and why ownership is often the weakest link in a collector's case. When the chain breaks, the claim collapses.
So we have 9 modules, but John, who should take this course?
Well, I believe everybody should because you never know when you're going to get called by a debt collector, even if it's erroneous.
That's true.
But anyone dealing with collections now, or anyone who wants to avoid learning the hard way later, this is preventive education. It's kind of like preventive medication, not a crisis response.
What do you hope people feel when they finish all of these modules?
Calm, not fearless, clear. When you understand the system, it stops controlling you.
Yeah. This is exactly why Give Me Credit exists. This is why we started this
Yeah,
whole thing, to
yeah,
explain the systems people are never taught, but they're expected to survive.
right. And that's because that's why this course exists, not to hype fear, but to replace it with understanding.
Well, thank you, John, for all of this. I'm really looking forward to this course. Thank you for listening, watching, wherever you are. We're John Mackey and J.S. Waldo, and this is Give Me Credit. You can read John's work at creditgenius.substack.com and more from me at jswaldo.substack.com. Thank you, John, very much for all this information. We just want all of you to understand the system before it knocks on your door.
Right. And the thing is, one of the reasons why this book came out is because I know, or this class, is because debt collection through the CFPB, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, let me rephrase that. The CFPB has been limited in scope. My point is that no one is being protected anymore.
Mhm.
And I shouldn't say no one, but it's certainly minimized. And if we don't take care of ourselves, therein lies the problem.
And without knowledge, we can't take care of ourselves. Knowledge is power. Knowledge is everything.
That's it. That's it. Thank you
Yeah,
for asking these questions.
you're welcome. I think this is important. I'm really looking forward to all of this. And we really again wanted to express the fact that you can ask us any questions. You can like, you can subscribe, you can send comments, you can send whatever. We will answer every last one of them. And we have our credit guru right with us. So thank you, John.
Thank you.